Okay,
Um,
Eddie.
all right. Welcome to episode 7 of our podcast. We're back at new locations. Well, I'm in a new location. Um, but yeah, and today we're going to talk about stereotyping, stereotypes, um, beliefs, stuff like that, and how it applies to kind of our social interactions, and especially in today's political climate, how important that is. But yeah, we'll get right into it. Leo, you can give us a definition.
Yeah, sure. So basically, there is a psychological definition of a stereotype. It's a fixed, overgeneralized belief about a particular group or class of people. That's like the official version of the definition, but actually
Yep,
it's just an overgeneralized belief. Yeah, you can just shorten it to this.
true.
So the thing is that the regions of like stereotyping and like of people having stereotypes, like roots into our survival skills, because in order for our mind to like adapt in like very hard situations, we had to like find shortcuts, and those shortcuts were stereotypes. So so that our brain won't have to think again about
Mm,
something, like one, because that's just survival, right? Like imagine right? That like a caveman is living with his family in a cave, right? And they know that a bear typically walks like around the sunset, because that's how they determine what time is it. Like around the sunset, a bear walks around the forest, right? And that's a stereotype. That's a belief they have, right? So they don't have to like go again there and check if a bear actually walks in there. They just have that they hold this belief, right? And
mhm.
that's it. I think my camera lagged again, but you want to pick up on that, Eddie?
Yeah, and it could be anything other than that too. It could be something wider. If you're a caveman family living inside of a cave, and obviously you're in a threat, you're in danger of dying every single day of your life. So like let's say all animals or all four-legged creatures will attack you and kill you. That's a stereotype. It seems like it's that kind of feel like that applies more than just like simply a bear. I don't know. It could just be all large cat animals will come and attack you and kill you. I feel like that's also a stereotype that could be applied. Um, so yeah, like these just beliefs that we have to just heighten our ability to survive and just function the way we do. Um,
Yeah, I'm sorry, Eddie. Something is wrong with my camera. I'll fix that in a second. You can just keep talking about that, because yeah, I think it's can
well,
you see the
yeah, I got
camera
you.
right now? Okay,
Yep.
I think it's fixed. Sorry,
Hmm.
guys, we might have to edit this part, but if we don't, hello.
It is what it
Yeah,
is.
it is what it
Um,
is, right?
yeah.
So, and that's why we have stereotypes, right? And
Hmm.
Eddie, maybe you want to give us some like real world examples of stereotypes. Like what do
Yeah.
we have as stereotypes right now?
Well, for stereotypes, it's like a at least a social categorization, which is like a them us mentality, and where you it leads to like in groups and out of groups, and like separating people in society into different groups. Um, like a positive social categorization example could be like do you know the say like the saying sober as a judge?
No, never heard of that.
So that's an example of a stereotype. And it's like a person with a respectable set of like characteristics, right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
But then there's like negative stereotypes of different people, overweight people. Well, that's I guess that's like a good one. I don't know. Overweight people are seen as like happy and like I guess like enthusiastic about things. I don't know why, but that seems to be a common one. Like television news readers are like seen as highly dependable and respectable, and like impartial. So
Hmm.
these are all different stereotypes based on. I guess this is based on like a physical aspect or what um, occupation that you hold. So I guess occupation too, like whatever category that you can separate someone into, that's an example of how that's like,
I
you
agree.
can
Yeah.
apply a stereotype to them.
No, I agree. I agree. And actually, you mentioned this thing, in group, out group, and that is actually very important, because there is this thing called in group bias. You know what is an in group bias, Eddie?
No, tell me more about it.
Yeah, sure. So an in-group bias is basically this tendency of people in a certain like social group. For example, like me, you, Ben Lee, Ian Lee, and Jason, we're friends, right? We're a
Yeah.
group of friends of five, right? We have like a friend group, right?
Okay.
So the thing is that in-group bias is a tendency like for us to perceive our group better than the other groups, and like
Mm,
to perceive other members of other groups, right, as like worse in like some characteristics, like no matter what it is. And it's just a tendency with that we have, like that in-group bias, so called. And that is actually also based on stereotypes, on stereotyping, right? Because we have stereotypes that, okay, we're the best group, like, and that's actually, I would and let you know what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how stereotypes can be good in our like in the modern world. Like we talked about, we talked a little about like how stereotypes were good back to like, I don't know, like 5,000 years ago, maybe 10,000 years,
mm-hmm,
no, even more than that, like back to the caveman, right?
mm-hmm.
And that is important, that was important for like the sake of survival. But now I think we use some stereotypes not to get into trouble. That's one aspect. But but this in group bias, I think we use it in order to boost our endorphin levels, to boost our happiness, to like feel like we are better, like even though we're not, and that's like, do you think it's a good thing about us that we have this, for example, in group bias that is based on stereotyping, or it's a bad thing? Like, let's like compare advantages and disadvantages. What do you think like the advantages of that like bias are?
Well, not about the bias, but like the stereotypes thing, whether it's good or
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
Undeniably, stereotypes are statistically accurate. That's what statistics are based on. It's just like it's more likely that a certain person has these set of characteristics. Of course, it's not universally valid. It
yeah,
doesn't mean
yeah,
that it
sure,
applies to
sure.
everybody, but that's kind of where stereotypes came from. Is the fact that this characteristic, whatever you put on the stereotype, is is statistically likely to occur. Um, so in that sense, I guess it could give you a good sense of like what to expect. Um, but I feel like overall, I think it's a negative thing because um, we like, especially nowadays, like people, like, there's a lot of individualization. And like people have all different like backgrounds, aspects, and characteristics. So like, I think stereotypes are overall negative.
Why do you think so? Like, what are the disadvantages of taking stereotypes as like your main thinking model?
It well, first of all, you'd be really closed-minded to believe a stereotype, because let's say you think, ah, I don't know, give me a stereotype that you can believe to like lead your career on. Let's say, um, investors are, I don't know, or let's just say investors make a lot of money. Could you say like that's a stereotype that you could hold?
Yeah, okay, yeah, you can definitely. Yeah.
Statistically, well, that's also statistically inaccurate, but sure. Um, just leading your base life, like your life on a stereotype, um, makes you hold like a false belief about a certain thing. It could be you. All Russians drink vodka and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and fight
That's
bears.
that's actually a good
Um,
stereotype. That's a good stereotype.
and let's say I believe that you drink vodka for lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and fight bears.
No, you
I
don't. Come
probably,
on.
let's just say I did, and I wouldn't be friends with you. So, um, I guess that's like a negative aspect. That's a
Yeah,
good
sure.
example.
So, okay. Actually, let's use this stereotype because I'm Russian and I like clearly want to talk about it more. And like the thing is that there are like different types of stereotypes. Let's talk about this. There are stereotypes like that. There are like completely negative stereotypes that, for example, you should avoid like certain like type of people. Like like it's definitely like bad, right? To assume, but for example, there was at least this stereotype that, for example, girls who dye their hair a lot into like red or pink, they're crazy, they're trying to like show off. And for example, in Russia we have that bad stereotype, right? And like people actually try to avoid people like that. It's like they think that you're a freak just by the color of your hair. Can you imagine that? So
Yeah.
there's this like bad part of it. But with this is more like a joke, right? With Russians, for example, like drinking vodka every day and all that. But even though there are people who actually believe that, I know a couple. But the thing is that this stereotype is actually like, I would say it's neutral. Like it doesn't hurt anyone. Like it doesn't hurt a Russian to like assume that like we drink vodka every day, because when you meet a Russian, right? Like you just know that he doesn't do that. Like yeah, there are some Russians who do that, but like not everyone does. And you can
Yeah.
explain, you know, if a person is like is open-minded enough, he can just understand you. Yeah, like not every Russian drink vodka. Like it's just a stereotype.
Hmm.
But right, there are some good stereotypes. Let's think about like some good stereotypes that there are in our modern world. Like
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of something, but I can't.
I have one.
You have one?
Um, let's say 16-year-olds aren't mature enough to vote. It's a stereotype. It's a generalization of the population at the age of
That's a
16.
good one. Okay.
Um, positive. Oh, well, some people may see it as negative, but I think it's positive because, of course, there could be some 12-year-olds that are mature enough to vote. There could be
Yeah.
some 23-year-olds that aren't mature enough to vote. So, of course, this is a stereotype, a generalization. It's not universally um, valid. Not everybody's like this, but the stereotype allows for us to make a statistical analysis of 16-year-olds and see whether they're or not they're capable of voting. Um, and this is good because, I mean, good in our case because it limits, like it helps. What do you call it? Look over. I don't know, like moderate like the voting in the United States. Um, and obviously, we don't want like elections to go bad. So that's kind of like a thing that
Yeah,
helps
no,
set like a good
I agree. I
limit.
agree. That's like so now we're talking about like some social structures that we have, right? Like this is a big social structure. Like as a society, like as a United States society, we don't want like 16 years olds to vote and all that, right? But
Hmm.
let's narrow it a little bit, right? Let's make it a little smaller and let's go like for example to the Westminster community, right?
Okay,
Let's talk about freshmen. Do you want to talk about freshmen? I think we should mention this. This is like a big thing. So
sure.
there is this stereotype like that like when I first came to Westy, I was a sophomore, so I wasn't a freshman, so I couldn't really feel it on my skin. But I saw a lot of freshmen who felt bad, and like I saw a lot of like other kids who were sophomores, juniors, and seniors who saw freshmen as something like something else, as something like not mature enough to even talk to, you know? Like there's this stereotype that freshmen are just like freshmen. They like, what are you talking
Froshes
about?
are froshes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah.
like what do you think about it? Like just
Well,
in general.
I feel like that can be applied to kind of like, or that can be, like, what do you call it?
Yes,
That can be like applied to our culture, like a school culture thing.
let me interrupt you for a second. Just want to mention that like obviously like once again, like there are freshmen that are actually not mature enough, right? That are like the yeah, there are some like bad kids who are freshmen, but there are good freshmen. Same with sophomores, same with juniors, same with like seniors. Like not every senior is a good guy, right? Like
Or yeah, not every senior is responsible, or not every senior
exactly,
is
exactly.
dependent. Yeah.
Yes. And teachers, right? For example, now school, they see seniors as more responsible than freshmen. And for example, I knew like last year, for example, I knew a couple of freshmen, not I would say I knew a couple of sophomores that were much more responsible than seniors.
Not to toot my own horn, but as a freshman, I feel like I was more responsible than a majority of seniors.
That, you see? Yes. I mean, that's subjective, but still, that could be true.
Yeah,
I mean, that could be true.
exactly.
Yeah. So, like, I think that's like a good example of a bad stereotype that like
Yeah.
our society has. And like,
Hmm.
yeah, there are definitely good things like that. For example, like to not allow like every 16-year-old to vote because like it will be a complete disaster, right?
Hmm.
But there are some bad stereotypes in social structures, right? That are connected to aging, that are connected to like being in a certain grade or something like that.
Yeah.
So the let's move on to the next thing. How do we fight bad stereotypes?
How do we fight bad stereotypes?
Yes, let's talk about this. I think it's a good thing to
I
talk
don't
about.
think it's possible.
You don't think it's possible?
I think it is humanly impossible for a person to get rid of stereotypes because it's genetically ingrained, it's physically ingrained in our system to create stereotypes, and our brain has to make them. Like we feel, I don't think it's possible that we don't make them.
Okay, check this out then. So there is a natural mechanism in our brains, like laziness. It's natural. We have laziness. It's natural. Like
Okay.
same thing, right? We can fight it as well in ourselves. So let me tell you why am I bringing this up, right? So for example, imagine like ecology, right? One may say that we cannot fight bad ecology. We cannot like make everyone like throw their like garbage into the garbage cans like every time, right? We cannot like make everyone like pick stuff from the streets, from the dirty streets. We cannot like make them not throw like beer bottles, beer cans into the ocean. We cannot make them do that. But why do they do that, right? Well, because they're lazy. They don't want to go to like the trash can, right? But we are still fighting against it. So you
Oh,
said
okay.
that you see what you see.
I believe that you can fight against it. I don't believe that you can get rid of it.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's a good like
That's
distinction
what
for
I
that.
was thinking.
Yeah, I
Like,
see it.
of course, you can fight anything in the world. Obviously, you can always, and yourself as well. Like, you can
Yeah, for
always
sure.
talk to yourself, tell yourself to think about, like, openly think about,
Mhm.
consciously about a stereotype that you're making and fight against it. Um,
That's what I wanted to talk about. How do we do that?
how do we do that? It's just
Yes.
self-awareness. At the end, it's just self-awareness. You have to
But
be able to realize.
how do we encourage others to do so?
Um, I mean, you just have to. I mean, I don't know.
How could do, because there are some problems that we have in our society, right? Like
Yeah.
and there should be like to every problem there is some sort of a solution, right? I think
Hmm.
there should be a solution for like bad stereotypes. So I think I personally think that we can for first of all, right, self-awareness, we should be open-minded ourselves. And for example, imagine you are sitting in a friend group, right? And then your friend is like we'll start to talk about some like bad stereotypes. You'll be like, oh, I don't know, girls are stupid, like stupid, like what are you even talking about? Like why girls are stupid, right? And you'll be like, oh, well, why are you saying so? Like why are you like saying such a thing? Like not without any like insult. You're not trying to insult him. You're just like curious. And then he'll be like, oh, girls are just stupid. I had this like ex that broke up with me because of some stupid thing, right? For example. And you'll be like, well, maybe there were like more reasons for that, right? Maybe like she was not the only one to blame, or maybe like there was some problems with you, not only with her. Maybe like her reasons were not like
Well, that stereotype's based on for him in his life,
yes, yes,
one person.
yes. But you can tell him like why are you thinking it's like, and then he'll be like, oh, maybe you're right. And like by changing one person, I think like you can like that's just one way of changing it. You can launch a chain reaction thing. You can like, for example, I have a best friend, and like you can change his opinion in a way, but you can try, like you can not like you don't have to impose your opinion on him. You can just tell him about your opinion, right? So like, if he'll tell you like that, like girls are stupid, you can tell him, oh, I don't think so, why do you think so? And then you tell him your opinion, and then maybe he can change it. Because some, like for example, I know a couple of people who have like bad stereotypes that they don't want to change. Like I have a couple, it's kind of like a shame, but I have a couple of friends in Russia who think that Afro-American people are just dumb. I like that's just how it is. I try to change that because that is obviously not true. That's a very bad stereotype, right? I try to change that, but they won't like change, right? And like I and like in those situations, I like it's just the way it is, right? You cannot change everyone. That's what that you're right. You were right by like mentioning that you cannot get rid of it. You can't. Yeah, but you can try. I think this like chain reaction thing, that if you will be open-minded yourself and show it to the world, show it to your friends, show it to your like class, whatever, you can like change the world by being like yourself, by being like open-minded yourself. What do you think
It's
about it?
possible. I mean, I see. I agree with what you're saying. But I was thinking more like on a global or like a national level. Of course, individually, you can
Mm,
always affect your community. For example, at Westminster, we can always strive to change the community. I think it'd be easier the smaller the population is, the smaller the group is, and the more connections that you have within it to actually affect their ideas and their opinions. Um, but I was thinking like on a larger scale, how do you get rid of a stereotype? And that's I guess a problem that's a lot more difficult than simply trying to talk to your friend about a
yeah,
negative
I
stereotype that he
agree.
holds, and that it has a lot more like nuisances to it. Um,
What about social awareness? So, for example, Black Lives Matter movement. Let's
mhm.
not like go too deep into that, but that was a stereotype, right? that black people are worse than like white people. It's like a bad stereotype that some people hold, right? Like, and that's why that's why the movement has started, because there was so many cases that of bad things happening to like African American people.
And black
So
people as well. Yeah.
to black people as well, right? And then we had this movement, Black Lives Matter, right? And it raised social awareness, right, to this stereotype, and it kind of like decimated it, I would say, like in a way, not for everyone. There are still people who will think so, but when you raise social awareness to a stereotypes to such a big thing, like, right, I think you can destroy it. I think you can fight it like very efficiently.
Yeah, definitely. Something as large as the BLM movement now, really effective. And that's because it's firstly has turned into like a huge thing. If you think about the BLM movement, like 4 years ago, even 3 years ago, it definitely wasn't as effective as it is now. And
Exactly.
that's because I think it's just the idea of having more people together. The more people that you get together, it's like the group
Exactly.
thing. Um,
Yes.
it's like mutual support and just it's easier for awareness. The more people that know about it, the more people that can share it to. It's eventually just connections to see who can like spread the
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And it's good that like it's good that to some topics we are able to bring social awareness. And I think there are some like things, there are more stereotypes than just this that we can actually like raise social awareness to, and we can like fix it, like at least try to fix it. Eddie, I think we can wrap up this because yeah, we pretty much talked about
Yeah.
everything at least I wanted to talk about. If there is anything you want to talk about, I'm like down.
Um, I mean, well, as one little small thing that I guess we
Sure,
could talk
sure,
about
sure.
is just to it's like proof that stereotypes exist. Because some people obviously are adamant that they're correct. Um, there was an experiment by a man. His name, I believe, was something Katz. Wait, it was.
Never
Oh,
heard of
is it? It was Katz and Braley. There's two people. In 1933, it's a racial stereotyping experiment, and
him.
they investigated attitudes of American people toward different races.
Okay.
And this was obviously a long time ago, but it was a questionnaire method, and they asked university students. They were given a list of nationalities and the ethnic groups, and they were told to list. Um, they were given like a list
Mm,
of 84 personality traits, and they were asked to pick out 5 or 6 traits that they thought were typical of each group. So
okay.
they were basically creating stereotypes based on
Mm,
their experiences. And the results were the majority of people, with 5 or 6 personality traits that they chose, they all aligned. Um, so it shows that the stereotypes are not just like an individual thing. It can
it's a
be, but
common, yeah.
it's a group thing, and it just
Hmm.
affects a large number
I
of people.
see.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's actually very important. Yeah.
yeah,
And that was back to 1933, you said?
yeah. That was 1933.
That's actually
So
quite cool, right? Like
mhm.
even like how much like 85 years or
That was like that was even before like globalization to our scale.
can you
Like you
imagine
might
that?
exactly. So like even before people could travel everywhere, you're like there's still stereotypes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, Eddie. So
All right.
yeah, thank you everybody for watching this, listening to this, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.